Hey all, Scott here, and it is Folio Friday on Art of the Genre, where we talk about one of the folios that we put out. Today we're going to do folio number 8, which is the Patina Court. It's one of my favorites that I've put out. I did it in 2016, and it's just a fun adventure. It's a city adventure, and I got to take part in someone else's world. Most everything I write is set in the Nameless Realms, but not this trilogy. This one is set in Mythras, which is the Dwarven Forge world in the city of Valoria. So let me grab my notes here and we'll start going over it. First off, the cover that you see is something that was done by Jeff Easley. I absolutely love this cover, and I think I'm going to have to reuse it again for a hardcover because it's just so good, and he's done so many of the great hardcovers for us here at the Folio. But nevertheless, it's a great piece. The interiors in this module are done by Michael Wilson, and Chet Mitten does some fantastic interior colors, including the color cover. And then Travis Hansen also lends a hand in here. You saw a lot of his work that was in the original Rosloff Keep. So that is the artwork side of it. But let me take you through the Patina Court. One thing that Stefan said when he allowed me to work within Valoria was, we were going to work with his terrain systems through Dwarven Forge. So if you're actually interested in it, you can see every build that I've done for this trilogy is going to be in the Art of the Genre YouTube. You'll find them in a dungeon build playlist, and you can check out everything that we've built. Most of them are fairly simple and stuff that you can do with your own terrain, although I think the end, he had some of his special terrain sets, which were the Tempoline sets and stuff like that. So keep that in mind, but you can build all these very easily, and there are instructional videos to do so. And then also he gave me a little part of the city and said, do what you want to with it. Maybe I took too many liberties, I don't know, because he had to change his overall map at the end. But nevertheless, I created the Patina Court, which lies along Main Street and Odin's Way, and it's tucked in. And the story behind it is, it used to be a heavy magic and money wealthy area, but then it fell into kind of disuse as people moved out, and now it is a seedier side of town. That being said, the reason it's called the Patina Court is because all of the rich people that were there like to put copper roofs on their homes, and they turn patina and green. So there are a lot of old green roofed homes in this neighborhood. Now the neighborhood is run by a gang called the Teller Gang, which the characters will be involved in. And the way that I set this up was the characters are going to be down on their luck. That's why they're in this neighborhood. It's a neighborhood where you can kind of get forgotten. And it's a great way to really get to know a neighborhood in a larger city intimately in a low-level D&D campaign, which I don't think you get all the time. But this will allow you to do that. Your character is going to be set up initially in, I have a hostel here. It is the Fallen Warlock hostel, to be exact. And they will be involved in talking to a lot of NPCs that I've detailed within the Gazetteer, within the hostel. And there's some great people and personalities that you'll be able to get to know as you go through the trilogy. I really like the hostel. I really like the areas that are defined in here, and you'll know more of them. It's a great gazetteer. It's a great way to learn a small portion of a city and feel kind of like it's your home. And that was the feel that I was looking for in just kind of a borough feel in these neighborhoods. And everybody kind of, it's one of those things where I said, I think that the neighborhood is so tight, a lot of people have never even crossed Main Street to go to a different borough or Odin's Way. They just stay right where they are, nestled up against a plateau, and that's where they live and they die. So keep that in mind. Your characters have come in here, they're at the hostel, and then I have set things up where you will go through a series of small adventures that are going to very much be based on your being low-level characters who are broke without magic items, and trying to really instill yourself in the feeling of the city. I know one of the best adventures I ever had, I was actually a player in an adventure in Kalimport in the Forgotten Realms, and we started with nothing, and every night we'd have to sleep on the street, and somebody would have to keep watch, and you kind of nuzzled up together, and you know, it was rough, and you were looking for those just a few coppers or a few silvers, and boy did that make the adventure interesting. We would walk by a sweet shop that had honeyed rolls, and every day my character, who was a fighter, just he would think, I just want one of those rolls. I'm going to get enough money to get one of those rolls. And you would go down to the bazaar, and you'd try to do your thieving, and you'd be so nervous because you had a crappy percentage, and the Amlakar could grab you. Anyway, I'm going off subject, but that's the kind of feel that you're looking at here. You need people that that when they get a gold, it means something. I know a lot of times when you go through adventures, you know, you go into a room, you kill a monster, and you hand out 20 gold or whatever and some silver, and it just kind of piles up, and by the time you're done with the adventure, everyone's rich in terms of what they were when they started out. And that's not what I'm looking at here. It's very important when you're doing this that the characters are always on the razor's edge of you know, being thrown out on the streets. And if you continue to maintain that at least through the first adventure and most of the second adventure, it's going to serve you well, and I think it's going to make everyone be more involved with the NPCs and more involved in feeling that their character is surviving here in the city, because a city, very much unlike going into a dungeon out in the country, you know, has other threats through the bureaucracy, through guards and everything else like that. So you kind of have to play by the rules, and that's something that you have to keep in mind here as well. One of the things that I've set up when you're looking through it, there are a couple of new monsters. One of them will run through the course of it. They're called the Black Eyes. They're basically modified raccoons. So think of, as I said in the last video, the Dabbers in Gamma World, or Rocket Raccoon in Guardians of the Galaxy. And then there are things called Hopping Brains. You can thank my old DM Mark for the Hopping Brains. They are nasty little buggers. And here's a picture of one. These are things that you're going to encounter later in the adventure. But nevertheless, I've set up a series of adventures within it. I'll go through those quickly, and I'll tell you the way that I've set them up, because they start with a story. Then I hit you up with something called The Truth, which is what really happened, that the story is not 100% true, especially what people tell you, because people are liars, especially in this type of city. And then the chase, which is how you move the characters through the adventure. The first one is the Rancid Cellar. I use that trope of, you know, go down in the cellar and find out what's going on. There are no rats down here in this cellar, but there are giant ants that are kind of a fun part of this adventure. Then there is the Troubled Crypt, where you have to go in and investigate a crypt for a mortuary. This will give you your first kind of experience of the characters to see the dead and stuff like that, which if you're very low level and you're from a city and you haven't seen anything like that before, I would play it up with your characters, give them a fear factor, give them something that they can't believe that the dead are alive, or, you know, have risen here, and build up the fear and make them feel that they've done something special that other people in the city would never believe is true. Because although you might be out in the country by an old dungeon and people know that stuff comes out of that and they're very familiar with it. In the city, oh, those are just stories that happen outside the city. That stuff doesn't really happen. So keep that in mind. You've actually witnessed it, and that is the way to play this out. Then there is the Alienist. This is kind of the end game of the adventure, where you have a old wizard's tower, and this wizard is the one that created the Hopping Brains and created the Black Eyes, and you'll be able to go through that wizard's tower and find out the secrets behind these creations and what motivates them, and if they're friend or if they're foe. The last little sub-adventure here deals with the Teller Gang, and it is called the Brawl Club. First rule of Brawl Club, don't talk about Brawl Club. And, so that is kind of a fun side adventure where your characters can start having a relationship, a negative relationship in this case, with the Teller Gang, and the Teller Gang feeling that the players are getting a little too powerful in their area of influence. And they don't want adventurers here. They don't want people that have... that make friends with people or help people out, that would stop their extortion or anything like that. So that's something that you'll continue to foster as the adventure goes forward, especially when you get into the second part of this, which is Folio number 9. Nevertheless, those are the basics for this folio and how I set them up. I think they run very well, especially if you're looking for something in a very low level fantasy adventure in a city. It's not something that you get all the time, but I really put a lot of work into it along with Stefan to make sure that this not only felt like his world, but could be placed anywhere if you really want to, because the Patina Court is just it's just a block of a city. You could put that in Waterdeep or anywhere else if you wanted to, and just roll with it there. City of Greyhawk, anything like that, it's just going to fit into one of the blocks, because a lot of times if you see the maps of these cities, you're going to see a lot of open blocks or places that you can play with, and this could be slid in there as well. So keep that in mind. It can be used anywhere. There is a really beautiful picture, a map done by Andrew Rogers, my designer, of the Patina Court. I'll let you take a look at it. I love that map. I think it brings a lot to the adventure, and it gives you kind of a perfect way to know how you're moving around to it, because it does have the 3D quality to it. Anyway, this adventure you can get on artofthegenre.com. You can get the adventure itself. Here you can get the trilogy if you want all of them at a discount, and currently we have a sale on this for the hardcover called The Cities of Sorcery, which actually gives you 2 trilogies and 6 extra mini adventures, and then some gazetteers that'll take you through even more information on the Patina Court. So keep that in mind. It's normally $50, now it's $20, and you can have a classic orange spine AD&D hardcover to add to your collection from the 80s. So there you have it. You can find those on artofthegenre.com. Thanks again for watching these videos on Art of the Genre YouTube, and hopefully you will subscribe and hit notifications. And otherwise, I will see you on Monday with a new module that I'm going to be reviewing and taking a look at with my DM's notes from the old TSR collections. I think it's going to be Bone Hill, so keep that in mind. Otherwise, we'll talk to you later, and great gaming.